acclimating fish into one of my tanks. Okay, so how do I do it today? Well, that's at the end of this video. How did I do it in the old school days? And here I'm talking mostly about getting fish from the local fish shop, but it could, and I probably would say the same back then as I do today. I treat somebody else's fish tanks just like I would the local fish shop's tanks. Back then I never got any fish shipped to me from anywhere else. It was a much more difficult process back then. But what did I do? Well, back in the old school days, I would just take the bag of water that the fish were in and I would put it down in my tank. And I'd leave it there for 5 or 10 minutes, sometimes 15. And then I would cut a slit in the bag. Not a very big one, just a couple inches. And I would scoop the bag down a little bit so that I got some of the tank water into the bag, not a lot. And I'd wait another 5 or 10 minutes. And then I'd scoop a little more water in there. And then I'd wait another 5 or 10 minutes. And then I'd scoop a little more water in there. Now mostly I was acclimatizing based on temperature. I never checked for pH or anything else. I was just trying to get the temperature even. Now I gotta admit, sometimes I rushed it and I did the whole thing in 15 minutes. Other times I would do what I set out to do and take 30 minutes to acclimatize my fish. And then when I was done, I would just take that bag when I thought the fish were acclimatized and I would just dump it right into my tank. Yep. Fish store water and all. Did it all the time, and that's how the people that taught me did it. That's what we did. Most of us. I would, if I was taking fish from one of my tanks to another, if I knew the temperatures were even, I'd just net them out and throw them in the other one. If the temperatures were different, I would put them in a small bowl, a plastic bowl. Back then it was Tupperware and not much else. And I would take that Tupperware bowl and I'd toss my fish in there, and with a little bit of their water, and I'd put it in the other tank. Temperatures, leave it sit for 10 minutes, and then I'd tip the edge just a little bit, get some more water in there. Do that once or twice. Usually 15 minutes would be good and I'd be done. Fish acclimatized. That's what we did. What do I do today? The reason I started Old School Fish Guy is because I left the hobby for so long, and I came back, I felt like Rip Van Winkle. And some of the things I do today are still the way I did them back then. Not acclimatizing fish, though. What do I do today? Well, I have a 5-gallon bucket, more than one. And I will set it on the floor by my fish tank that I'm going to put these fish in. Then I will pour my fish into a 1-gallon bucket, maybe a 2-gallon, depending on how big they are. And then I take an airline hose and I start the siphon straight into the tank, the bucket the fish are in. Well, when it gets up to the top, it's going to run over. And when it gets down into the 5-gallon bucket, then I wait until it's up to the top, and I can just flat out let the water cover the 1-gallon bucket or 2-gallon. And then I will take the fish I'll just dump it right into the 5-gallon at that point. I will take another 5-gallon bucket. I will put a great big net hanging over it, and I will pour the fish into the net into the other 5-gallon bucket. Then I'll take the fish and put them into my tank. Now that's whether I'm getting them from the local fish store or off the internet or from a friend, I don't care. And I'll tell you what, these days I do run my test. I always test for what the ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate are in the bag the fish came in, because I want to see. And I've said it before, but sometimes the fish I've gotten from some of the Aquarium Society auctions, they're in some nasty water. Now I understand the water's going to get nasty because, you know, you bag them up at 3 o'clock in the morning or maybe the night before. They sit in that all day. I don't leave the aquarium auction till 5 o'clock, and I got still 2-3 hours to get home. Fish are in those bags for 20 hours by the time I get them home. I expect a little bit nasty. I still acclimatize them the same way, and I check the water. If their water is really nasty, I might let it keep dripping after it's overflowed the 1-gallon bucket for quite a while. Take a lot of water out of my tank. It's a good way to do a small water change. The important thing is I let my fish have time to get used to it. And they're almost always going into an isolation tank anyway. So I got the time. It's all good. That's what I do today. That's what I did back then. You pick and choose. Do it your way. But I care about my fish. How about you? Hey, let's go have some fun. What do you say?